You're listening to a production of the National Media Archive. To learn more or volunteer, go to nationalmediaarchive.com.
Let me ask you, when you hear the name Warren Buffett, what image pops into your head? I bet it's something like the friendly, wise Oracle of Omaha, the man who eats McDonald's, drives a beat-up car, and preaches patience and virtue in investing. But what if I told you the reality is much more complicated? Today, we're peeling back the layers of Buffett's legendary persona to explore the real business tactics and ethics behind the curtain. You might be thinking, isn't Buffett the living proof that nice guys finish first? Well, buckle up, because what you're about to hear might just change your mind about America's favorite billionaire. We're going to dive into insider trading allegations, monopoly strategies, and the art of public image, a masterclass in financial reputation management. So, is Warren Buffett a lovable teacher or the most impressive fraudster in modern finance? Let's break it all down. First up, let's talk about the bombshell ProPublica report that just dropped. It details 3 cases where Buffett allegedly traded stocks in his personal account right before Berkshire Hathaway, his $800 billion conglomerate, made the same moves. Here's a technical term: front-running. Think of it like knowing the answers before a test, choosing private info to get ahead. In Wall Street, front-running is a form of insider trading, and it's illegal for good reason. Now, you might be asking, why is this such a big deal? Because when Berkshire buys or sells, the market moves massively. Buffett's early trades could net millions before the public ever knows what's happening. But here's the kicker. Despite the evidence, do you think Buffett will face consequences like you or I would? History says probably not. And that's where the power of public image comes in. So, is the system rigged in favor of those with the right reputation? Let's dig deeper. Let's pause and consider, why do some people get away with what would ruin others? The answer lies in Buffett's meticulously crafted public image, a concept PR pros call personal branding and psychologists call halo effect. Buffett isn't just rich, he's relatable. He's the billionaire who lives in the same house since 1958, drives himself to work, and claims he'll donate his entire fortune to charity. These are all classic reputation management tactics. Now you might be thinking, but isn't that what all philanthropists do? Sure. But Buffett's real genius is using his image as a shield, deflecting criticism and investigation. In fact, behavioral finance tells us that investors trust those they perceive as ethical even if the facts suggest otherwise. That trust is Buffett's greatest asset, more valuable than any stock. So next time you hear about a scandal, ask yourself, are we judging the actions or just the person's persona? Let me tell you a story. Young Warren Buffett was a shy genius, but he knew intelligence alone wouldn't make him rich. That's why he took Dale Carnegie courses to learn public speaking and the art of being likable, a classic case of social engineering. Social engineering, for those new to the term, is about influencing people's perceptions and behaviors through psychology, not just technology. Buffett openly admits that learning to communicate made him 50% more valuable. He understood early on that trustworthiness and charm would open more doors than raw analytical skill ever could. You might ask, does being likable really matter on Wall Street? Absolutely. Investors want to trust you with their life savings. A genius with poor people skills is outmatched by a relatable leader with average talent. This is Buffett's real edge. He's engineered his persona to be the most likable, trustworthy guy in the room. And that's worth billions. Now, let's zoom in on the industries. Buffett prefers tobacco and sugary drinks. Sound wholesome? Not so fast. These are classic examples of addiction economics and economic moats. An economic moat is a business's ability to maintain competitive advantages. Think of it like a castle surrounded by a ditch. Addiction, meanwhile, is a surefire way to keep customers coming back. Buffett invested heavily in Coca-Cola and previously in tobacco companies. Why? Because these products are not only addictive, they're often monopolies hard for competitors to breach. But, as you might wonder, isn't investing in addiction risky for your reputation? Exactly. That's why Buffett uses softer language, calling monopolies moats and focusing on business fundamentals in public. So, behind the avuncular image is a ruthless understanding. Addiction plus monopoly equals profit. Let's jump back to the 1990s. When Wall Street titan Salomon Brothers was caught manipulating the Treasury market committing what's called bid rigging, Buffett stepped in as the white knight. Bid rigging is basically colluding to fix auction outcomes. Imagine a group of bidders secretly agreeing who will win. In finance, that's not just unfair, it's illegal. Buffett's move? He testified before Congress, soothed regulators, and salvaged the firm's reputation. Publicly, he said, "Lose money for the firm and I will be understanding. Lose reputation and I will be ruthless." But here's the twist. While hailed as a hero, Buffett's investment in Salomon raised eyebrows. Was he saving Wall Street or just his own $700 million stake? This crisis set the template. When scandals hit, Buffett's reputation lets him play savior, even when he's part of the problem. Fast forward to 2008, the financial crisis. At the heart of it all were mortgage-backed securities bundles of risky loans with artificially high ratings from agencies like Moody's. Moody's, a credit rating agency, gave AAA ratings to junk assets. Turns out Buffett was Moody's largest shareholder, profiting while the financial system teetered. Then there's Goldman Sachs. When they were on the brink, Buffett swooped in with $5 billion, securing a 10% dividend, an insanely good deal called a preferred stock investment. And let's not forget Wells Fargo, embroiled in fake account scandals while Berkshire Hathaway was its biggest backer. Did Buffett face backlash? Hardly. His public faith in these companies calmed the markets and protected his interests. So, the next time you hear that Buffett is just a passive investor, remember, timing, influence, and insider relationships matter far more than most people realize. Here's a question. Is Buffett really just a passive investor, or something much more involved? He claims to simply read annual reports and pick good compania. Sounds innocent, right? But if you look closer, Buffett takes active roles, meeting with CEOs, influencing strategies, and ensuring his principles like pricing power are enforced. Pricing power, by the way, is a company's ability to raise prices without losing customers. In Buffett's world, it's the golden ticket. In practice, it often means squeezing consumers for more. So while he projects humility, behind the scenes, he's orchestrating moves more like a corporate raider than a passive shareholder. That's the Buffett paradox: passive in public, hyperactive in private. And that confusion is exactly what keeps critics at bay. Let's talk about the difference between Buffett and his so-called disciples like Martin Shkreli, the infamous pharma bro. Shkreli took Buffett's lessons on pricing power and ran with them, raising drug prices 0% overnight. He even cited Buffett as his inspiration for maximizing profit. But here's the catch. While Buffett stays beloved, Shkreli went to prison. The difference? Public image. Shkreli was brash, unapologetic, and unlikably failed at the social engineering Buffett mastered. So, you might ask, is the real rule of Wall Street to be lovable, not just smart? Absolutely. In the court of public opinion, and often the courts themselves, vibe trumps virtue. It's a sobering reminder. Playing by the rules is good, but playing with perception is often better. Let's get philosophical for a second. Why do some people skate by while others get nailed for the same offense? The answer isn't just in the law, it's in the vibe or the perceived character of the accused. We all have a built-in bias called affinity bias. We're more forgiving of people we like or admire. In legal terms, a defendant's reputation can sway judges and juries as much as any fact. Buffett's everyman routine normal house, cheap car disarms critics and diffuses outrage. It's reputation arbitrage, using social capital as a shield. Now, you might think, isn't the law supposed to be blind? In theory, yes. In reality, human nature always creeps in. That's why Buffett, despite questionable actions, is almost untouchable. So, next time you see a financial scandal, ask, is this person being judged for what they did or for who they appear to be? Finally, let's step back and look at the world Buffett built. He isn't just an investor, he's a legend. Berkshire Hathaway shareholders treat their annual meeting like a pilgrimage, hanging on his every word. This is what psychologists call cult of personality, a group's devotion to a charismatic leader. In finance, it's rare and incredibly powerful. Buffett's legacy is cemented by his teacher image, his folksy wisdom, and his promise to give it all away. That story is as much a product as any stock he's ever sold. But if you look closer, you see a playbook for power. Control your narrative, build trust, and always appear humble no matter what's going on behind the scenes. So what's the real lesson? In the world of big money, perception is reality. And Warren Buffett is the undisputed king of both.